we're in serious trouble. If we don't see the threat, we are in serious trouble. Down at the Black Caucus, they were giving all the statistics. 66% of black children being born in single-family households. That's not to demean that household. White supremacy is saying, I'm taking away the conditions for enhancing black masculinity. I'm taking away the conditions through which you might produce soldiers to carry on activity on your side of the chessboard. We don't see the war.
My peoples, let's step into it, man. Feel me? The breakdown. Every situation, man, is a circumstance, and every circumstance has a situation. The young lady, man, hit on some key points that we really need to look at in today's light. You know, dealing with this masculinity situation, man, and being a black man, brown man, born, raised right here in the United States, I've seen on both sides, man, the attack. And I gotta say that because that's what it is. And it's not an attack on an individual, it's an attack on a way of life. So that's what we gotta understand, man. When we talk about masculinity and we talk about our blackness, man, it don't just mean, you know what I'm saying, one or the other. It don't mean the black man. And you gotta understand this. What I'm going to say is more important so that it opens up your broad understanding of who and what we are, especially from my perspective and how I see it, man. Listen, we speak about black man, black woman, this and all that, right? There is no black man without a black woman. Let's get that understood. It ain't gonna happen. And there is no black child without black father. So the two are a part of the yin and the yang, the synonymous. They go together. None can change the yin and the yang. None can change them. See that image? That's the image, the yin and yang. You see that baby fold up in your stomach? He fold up like that. The yin and the yang, man. Listen, nothing can come between that and break it down. Except for us and our egos and our attitudes. We gotta lay this aside. That's why the old folk, man, was so powerful, man, because if we think for 1 second that they didn't have the same thoughts that we have today about one another, you know, granddaddy and grandmama didn't always get along. They just didn't. But they stood along. They stood strong. They made it through it. And they made sure that we got here, you know. And then when we did get here, we was here safe. And it raised us up. Yeah, in this masculinity, man, which is all of us. It's all of us. Check this breakdown out, man. It gets deeper. And it ain't a sleeper. From the OG, if you care anything about your peoples, man, and you got something going on concerning your families and things, get you a bit of this piece of this puzzle, man, and just let it fall in where it's supposed to. Check it out, the breakdown.
Okay, so today we're going to dive into some fascinating ideas around black masculinity.
Right.
And it's all based on the stuff you sent our way.
Yeah.
We've got one piece that talks about like these whole movements that are kind of reimagining what it means to be a black man, you know, in today's world.
Right.
And then this YouTube transcript that you sent in that really brings up some serious concerns about things that might be leading to like its destruction.
Yeah.
So our mission, if you will, is to like unpack these different perspectives on where black masculinity is now and, you know, where it's headed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting to see that contrast, right? Like, on the one hand, we have this idea of reimagining, and on the other hand, there's this concern about destruction.
Exactly.
So let's start with that pasted text you sent.
Okay.
One of the things that really jumped out at me was this idea of like movements that are all about reimagining Black masculinity. And it's not about just getting rid of the whole concept, but it's more about actively shaping it to be more inclusive, and in line with like gender equality. And, a big part of that is making space for a wider range of emotions, like moving beyond those traditional, kind of boxes.
Okay, so it sounds like this is a very like proactive approach.
Right.
It's not just like reacting to what society expects.
Yeah.
But it's like intentionally trying to redefine what Black masculinity can be.
Exactly. It's about like taking ownership,
Right. Both for themselves and their communities.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So,
now let's switch gears a bit and look at that YouTube transcript.
okay.
This one is from Eternal Freedom,
Okay.
and it presents like a very different perspective.
Okay.
Much more urgent, you could say.
Good.
The speaker is deeply worried about the destruction of Black masculinity.
Wow.
And they point to a really concerning statistic that was mentioned at the Black Caucus. 66% of Black children are born into single-family households.
That's a huge number. And so the speaker connects this directly to Black masculinity being like under attack.
Yeah, they see it as being actively undermined.
Wow.
Their main argument is that it's systemic forces that are doing this. Specifically, they call out white supremacy.
Okay.
They say it's taking away the conditions for enhancing Black masculinity.
Interesting.
And they talk about how these forces are preventing the development of what they call soldiers to carry on activity.
So they're talking about like traditional roles and responsibilities within the Black community?
Yeah, and they see this high rate of single-parent households as like a symptom of this bigger problem.
So we have these two completely different viewpoints here. Right. One is about internal agency and the power to redefine Black masculinity.
Right.
And the other points to these external pressures that are seen as like eroding traditional structures.
And I think it's so important that we try to understand these ideas, within their own context, like just as they're presented in the sources.
Yeah. Without, like taking sides or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. One emphasizes growth and evolution from within.
Right.
And the other highlights these external obstacles and how they see them impacting the community.
Right. And for you listening, it's worth thinking about what we even mean by masculinity.
Right.
It's not this like one-size-fits-all thing.
Absolutely not.
Did y'all hear it? Did y'all hear what the man said? Okay? See, these are the things you got to key in on. You know what I'm saying? Take notes. Write it down. Come back and look at it again, man, because it means something, bro. I got to say myself, man. Sometimes, man, you got to get an outside source and an outside point of view so that you can get a different, flavor of what's really going on, man. It's really deep, man. If you take your time and really check it out, it's going to make sense, man. Check it out.
It changes depending on content, culture, individual experiences.
Totally.
Why do you think these two, like, seemingly opposite interpretations of Black masculinity both exist?
That's a great question.
Yeah. What different concerns are fueling these narratives?
It really makes you think.
So to kind of sum up what we've talked about,
yeah,
we've seen this clear tension between these two ideas, right?
Yeah.
One is focused on reimagining Black masculinity towards more inclusivity and openness.
Right.
And the other is really concerned about its destruction because of systemic injustices.
And they use things like single-parent households as evidence for that.
Exactly. And this brings us to like a final question for you to think about. How did these big societal forces that we talked about actually like intersect with the individual's desire to define themselves?
Right.
Where does the power lie in shaping what it means to be a man?
Especially a Black man.
Yeah, in today's world.
It's a really complex issue.
It is. And, thinking about these different perspectives and what really allows for meaningful expressions of identity.
Right.
This is like a key takeaway from this whole deep dive.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, this was a great conversation.
And keep thinking about these questions.
Yeah, they're important ones.
All right. See ya.
Yeah.
Hey, man, again, man, I appreciate y'all and y'all's time. Thank you for stopping by and getting this flavor, man. Man, let's stop and sit down and think about some things that really mean something, man. It ain't always gotta be about our ego and our, you know what I'm saying, our attitudes and our person. Sometimes we gotta lay all the side like granddaddy and them used to do, man. Just bite. Sometimes you gotta bite down, man. You ain't gotta win every argument, man. I'm learning that in life, man. You ain't gotta win every argument, and it don't mean that you let go of your person or who you are just because that you don't have to. Sometimes we gotta have a meeting of the mind, and we really gotta grow all the time. Thank y'all for your time again. OG, man, Freedom Pie. I'll holler at you. Peace.
Thanks for stopping by. The Breakdown.